Marilyn's expression became quizzical. "I think she's a clever girl." "You mean something by that, don't you?" prompted Kennedy. She sobered. "No, honestly." For an instant she studied him with a directness of gaze which I would have found disconcerting. "Don't tell me," she teased, again allowing the flash of a smile to illuminate her features. "Don't tell me the renowned and celebrated Professor Kennedy suspects Enid Fay of murdering poor Stella to get her position." Kennedy laughed, turning to me. "There's the woman," he remarked. "We may deduce and analyze and catalogue all the facts of science, but," he spread his palms wide expressly, "it is as nothing against a woman's intuition." Facing Marilyn again, he became frank. "You caught my thought exactly, although it was not as bad as all that. I simply wondered if Miss Fay might not have had something to do with the case." "Why?" I realized now that this Miss Loring, in addition to considerable skill as an actress, in addition to rare beauty on the screen, possessed a brain and the power to use it. She followed Kennedy with greater ease than I, who knew him. "Why?" she repeated. "Perhaps it's the intuition of the male," he began hesitatingly. She shook her head. "A man's intuition is not dependable. You see, a woman gets her intuition first and fits her facts to it, while a man takes a fact and then has an intuitive burst of inspiration as a result. The woman puts her facts last, and so is not thrown out when they're wrong, as they usually are. But the man, I think, Professor Kennedy, that you have some facts about Enid stored away, and that that's why you put a double meaning in my remark. Am I right?" He smiled. "I surrender, Miss Loring. You are right." "What is the little fact? Perhaps I can help you." "Miss Fay and Lawrence Millard seem to be old friends." "Oh, maybe you wonder at the contents of the sealed testimony in the case of Millard versus Millard?" Kennedy nodded. "Do you want to know what I think?" she asked. "Please." "Well, I've worked with Stella nearly a year. It's my opinion she divorced Millard because he asked her to do so." "No, no!" I balked at that, interrupting. "He could have obtained the divorce himself if he had wanted it. Stella Lamar and Manton—" "That's talk," she rejoined, with a show of feeling. "That's the thing I hate about pictures. It's always talk, talk, talk. I'm not saying Stella and old Papa Lloyd, as we used to call him, never were mixed up with each other, but it's one thing to repeat a bit of gossip, and quite another thing to prove it. I'm not one to help give currency to any rumor of immoral relationship until I'm pretty doggone sure it's true." "Do you think Miss Lamar wasn't as bad as painted?" asked Kennedy. "I'm sure of it, Mr. Kennedy. I've known Stella, and I've known others of her type. Fundamentally, they're the kindest, truest, biggest-hearted people on earth. When Stella and I shared a dressing room I often caught her giving away this or that, frequently things she needed herself. I've known her to draw against her salary to lend money to some actor or actress whom she well knew would never repay her. Stella's biggest fault was an overbalancing quality of sympathy. If she ever did get mixed up with anyone, you may bet it was because that person played upon her feelings." "Have you any theory as to who killed her?" It was a direct question. "No." The answer was quick, but then an amazing thing happened. Marilyn suddenly colored, a flush which gathered up around her eyes above the make-up and made me think of a country girl. She started to say something else and then bit her tongue. Her confusion was surprising, due probably to the unexpectedness of Kennedy's query. Kennedy seemed to wish to spare her. Undoubtedly her prompt negative had been the truth. Some afterthought had robbed her of her self-control. "Tell me why you said Miss Fay was a clever girl," he directed. Just because she puts her ambition above everything else and works hard and honestly and sincerely and will get there. That's what people call being clever." "I see." Werner's voice, roaring through a megaphone, announced an interval for lunch. Marilyn rose, laughing now, but still in a high color, conscious perhaps that she had revealed some strong undercurrent of feeling. "If you'll escort me to my dressing room," she said coaxingly, "and wait until I slip into a skirt and waist, I'll initiate both of you to McCann's across the street. We all eat there, players, stagehands, chauffeurs, all but the stars, who have machines to take them elsewhere." Kennedy glanced at me. "Delighted," said I. "We haven't much time," she went on, leading the way. "Werner's on a rampage today." "He isn't usually that way?" "It's Stella's death, I guess." She opened one of the steel fire doors. "He's always that way, though, when he's been out the night before." I flashed a look at Kennedy. Could Werner have been at Tarrytown? In the long hallway of dressing rooms Marilyn stopped, grasping the knob of her door. "It'll only take me—" she began. Then her face went white as the concrete of the floor, and that was immaculate. An expression which might have been fear or horror or hate, or all three, spread over her features, transforming her. Following the direction of her stare, I saw Shirley down the hall, just as he stopped at his own door. He caught her glance suddenly, and his own face went red. I thought that his hands trembled. Marilyn wheeled about, lips pressed tightly together. Throwing open the door, she dashed into her room, slamming it with a bang which echoed and re-echoed up and down the little hall. She had forgotten our presence altogether. End of chapter 13. Read by Roger Marilyn.